Alright, let's revisit one more location for our solo materials farming series. The Cobwebbed Room in the Derelict Delves is probably my favorite mob farming location in the whole game. The amount of loot and the respawn rates of the enemies there is second to none when it comes to these types of farms. You can expect to consistently get at least 20 gold per hour in this room. I've been farming this both on my Untamed, which had a slower killing speed, and on my Dragon Hunter, which you can see in this video. On my Dragon Hunter, I was actually killing the enemies so fast that I was consistently getting hit by the diminishing returns from the anti-farming mechanism in about 24 minutes. And while this might sound awful, it actually isn't. It means that I was getting at least 10 gold in less than half an hour of farming. And if you've watched my intro video to this series, you'll know that we can reset the anti-farming mechanism. I'll link the video in the pinned comment once more, because this is probably the very first farm where exactly understanding how DR works becomes really important to you. If you're unsure whether you'd notice whenever DR kicks in, trust me, you're gonna know. You'll stop getting loot altogether, and usually you'll notice when 2 consecutive spider packs do not drop any loot anymore. In terms of loot, you can expect to gain 30 tier 6 Venom Sacs during a single session, so that's about 60 per hour, as well as 105 tier 5 Venom Sacs, which is about 210 per hour. That makes this one of the fastest locations to farm for materials for your legendary gifts, and potentially one of the prime locations if you're crafting Mystic Curios yourself. As per usual, the gold per hour number mentioned does not include spirit shards and trade contracts. You can expect 10 spirit shards per hour and 35 to 40 trade contracts on top of that. Both of these are actually a very nice bonus. After each session, you could choose to buy 10 Philosopher's Stones for a single spirit shard, and use those to upgrade the tier 5 Venom to tier 6. This will add another extra gold gained during your 20 to 30 minutes of farming. If you need tier 5 Venom for any of the legendary gifts, or potentially for Mystic Curios, don't do this obviously. But if you mainly need tier 6 materials, or you simply want to maximize your gold per hour, this is well worth considering. To upgrade materials, you will also need a pile of crystalline dust, which you won't even need to buy when you're farming here. You'll get about 10 to 20 Elonian Weapons, which are all of rare or yellow quality. If you salvage those, you're bound to get at least a few globs of ectoplasm, which can then be salvaged into tier 6 dust. Trade contracts are only worth about 23 copper per contract, so it might sound weird for me to be mentioning these, but you'll need a bunch of them if you haven't unlocked some of the Path of Fire cooking recipes. Spoiler alert, which I might feature in a future video. Additionally, you can choose to trade these in for funerary incenses, which you'll definitely need if you're after one of the legendary trinkets or a generation 2 legendary weapon. And if you have no more use for contracts, you can always choose to spend them on crates and get a few extra materials. An added bonus could be the amount of junk you're getting here as well. If you equip a Jade sliver module for your bot, you can expect to get about 100 slivers every session as well. If you've watched my original video, you'll know how to get here. If not, the location is actually really easy to reach, but there's a requirement you must fulfill to be able to enter the room. The room itself is located in a large structure directly south of the Derelict Delves waypoint. Once you enter, you'll want to drop down a level, and the first room on the left is the Cobwebbed Room. I tend to farm on the bottom of the level, as each cobweb you'll run into will either spawn 3 regular spiders or a single veteran spider. Running into a cobweb will momentarily root you into place. You can avoid this with Aegis, but expect not being able to dodge all the time. If you see there are too many people farming, which is highly unlikely with the rate the webs respawn by the way, there is actually a second part to this room on top of the spiderwebs. Running around on top of those will spawn more spiders for you to kill, albeit at a lower rate. If you've never been here before, you'll need to do the Rune Locked Doors achievement until at least the 3rd step. The first step will have you go into a room filled with ice imps, the second will feature fire enemies, and the third, which is the penultimate room of the achievement, is the one we want to farm in. I'll link the wiki which explains each step in a pinned comment, as it will do a far better job explaining the achievement than I ever could. Don't let the achievement deter you from farming here by the way. It'll only take you a couple of minutes to unlock and it's well worth it. I already mentioned you would get rooted into place, which is very relevant if you plan to survive here. While rooted, you won't be able to dodge, and therefore you will be face tanking the poison projectiles from all of the spiders. Using the offensive and defensive Jade protocols will make survival an afterthought, but if you play a build with no sustain at all, that doesn't burst down the enemies quickly, and you don't have any buffs, you're gonna be spending a lot of time at low health. There are a few ways you can prevent this. The obvious solutions are of course to grab the Jade protocols and play builds with a lot of burst damage. Every class in the game has a build that will work here. I'd advise checking Meta Battle for a power-based build for the open world, and if you're unsure about your traits, skills or gear and you'd prefer my help, just leave me a comment and I'll slap a build together for you. That's about everything you'll want to know. I still frequently farm this room because the respawn rates of the enemies is so high, you will never suffer from other players wanting to farm at the same time. If you're simply in it for the gold, come here once per day, farm until the diminishing returns kick in and sell everything that dropped for you. That's an easy 10 gold in 25 to 30 minutes, which is gonna add up over time. If you have any other comments or questions, feel free to ask them down below, and as always, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of this stuff.